Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Flags in a Gym, a podcast dedicated to all things color guard. My name is Eric. I'm your host and resident color guard nerd. And today's episode continues our 2026 regional recap series with the Austin and Charlotte Regional Plus events. We've got a lot of color guard to talk about, so sit back, relax, and let's talk some color guard. Welcome back, everybody. We are back for another fun-filled regional recap episode. Let's get right into it. We have a lot to talk about, so let's go over the general weekend notes. We had 7 regionals over this past weekend. We had Austin, Charlotte, Chicago, Phoenix, Denver, Nashville, and Tampa. 4 of them were 2-day regionals, and thankfully there were no cancellations at any of them due to weather. The Florida one was very interesting as we had some really competitive scores there, especially in Independent Open and Independent World. And we'll see them in 2 weeks at the Stewart Regional. So it'll be very exciting to see because most of the guards that were at Tampa will be at the same regional. And then next week is the Manhattan Beach Regional. So we'll finally get to see the flow premiere of the California guards and very excited to see them, especially Arcadia. If you haven't seen the bootlegs that are out there, they look really damn cool this year. So I'm excited to see like the, quote unquote official video of them. Obviously, the big story from this weekend was the absolute utter disaster that was the flow stream from Charlotte. I'm sure you've seen it by now. If you haven't, it was just god awful. I mean, just the amount of issues. I mean, it wasn't just like a sound issue, it wasn't just like a video issue. I mean, it was just a disaster of epic proportions. And make your voice heard. Email them, contact them on social media, let them know it's not acceptable. People are paying $160 a year for this. And this is now 3 weeks in a row we've had issues. First, we had Corning, which was kind of bad. Looking back now, it was like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Then apparently there were issues on Saturday at the Indianapolis Regional, and then this. Austin was perfectly fine. So we know they can do it. I don't know what happened at Charlotte, like what the issue was. I don't know if it was all the people in the gym because it seemed to really ramp up around open class when a lot of spectators were getting into the gym. But there were issues prior to that. I know many people reach out to them and they're getting crickets back. So keep hounding them because if we don't do something about this, it's just going to get worse. And because they're the only real name in the game, they can be like, screw it. And we're just going to make you pay for it. If you want to watch it, you got to go through us. So keep pressuring them. Hopefully they can fix it because Charlotte was a complete disaster. There were so many color guards that were just completely unwatchable. I went back and looked at how I did this episode last year and I combined this into one episode. So I'm going to do that again. I don't have the time this week to do 2 separate episodes. That was actually very difficult to do last week. And I recorded the Philadelphia one like at 11 o'clock at night and then turned right around and edited it until about 2:30 in the morning so I could publish it that same day. I was exhausted. My brain wasn't working, so I'm not doing that. So we're going to do joint regional here. We're going to move quickly. I can't cover everyone. If I gloss over your group, I'm sorry. I want to touch on as many as I can because these were both very large regionals, but I can't do everybody. If I don't cover your group and you want my thoughts, message me on Instagram. I'll be happy to share them with you. I'm going to go through the guards and let you know what everyone is doing, how the show flows, any fun highlights to keep an eye out for if you see them in person later in the season. Once again, we need to talk about flow camera. It's really hard to see colors and intricate designs and all that. So if I pick the wrong color or say, oh, they were in black and you're actually in blue or purple, it's because of the flow camera. We're going to go class by class instead of regional by regional. So I'm going to do Scholastic A for Charlotte, and then I'll do it for Austin. Then we'll do the same for Independent A. Then we'll move on to the Open. So we'll bounce between the 2 regionals by class. I don't want to run this too long, so my plan is top 3 for each class and maybe a couple others along the way, a couple quick shout out guards. And because Charlotte's stream quality was so atrocious, I had to go through both prelims and finals to see if there was a good copy of the run. So some of these guards I'm watching prelims and some of them I'm watching finals. If your guard made a change for finals and I don't cover it or didn't grab it, that's probably because I went off your prelims run. Like A2 a couple weeks back, they were in practice blacks for prelims, and then finals, they pulled out their uniforms. So if y'all did something like that, and I had to go off your prelims run, sorry. Last little few notes. I have heard your feedback on how some of the episodes can get a little long, and I hear you, I know. I'm working on trying not to ramble as much, but I just get so excited about guard, and I love talking about it. I just want to keep talking and talking. So I'm going to work on being more succinct. And also, please remember, all of this is done out of love and support and care, concern, growth, all of that good stuff. I want everyone to be successful and amazing. And I just, sometimes I get in that moment where I'm like, I care so much. I want to kind of give you a hug through the microphone and I'll just kind of keep rambling on something. And also, there's just a ton to talk about. So we're going to try to keep it as quick as possible without feeling too rushed. Yeah, let's get into it. So we're going to start with Scholastic A. We had 15 groups in Charlotte and 20 in Austin make finals. So we're going to go over the top three of each, except Charlotte, we're going to do four because I'm going to do the fourth place color guard because a friend of mine works with the guard and they asked me to cover them. So I said, sure, no problem. So in fourth place, we had Northwest Guilford High School with their show Leave the Light On. They have a floor with lampposts on it. It's a mostly dark floor with a light splotch, and then they put a lamppost in that light area. And they're dressed in all black with hoods. It could be purple, but flow camera. But Northwest's show is about finding happiness or joy in the world, even though it's crazy right now. They start with like news reels of just kind of all the awful things that's going on in the world. And I'm like, oh my God, please, we're not doing a show about this, please. But then it quickly turns. It's like, no, even though the world is crazy, we can still find moments of happiness and joy. And that's what the show is about. And they use the lamppost to like symbolize finding that happiness, turning that light on. They open with body, they move around the floor, and saber entrances come in. And that's where we get this big voiceover about finding happiness and kind of hammering the theme of the show. They pull out some dark purple flags, and there's lots of saber solo tosses that are strong. Rifles begin to enter, and then the hoods come off. So as the show progresses, the hoods come off, and then they eventually take off the whole like top that they have to reveal the uniform underneath. They have a rifle catch into a lighter purple flag explosion. We always love a flag explosion. Then they enter a flag feature with a yellow and fuchsia flag. Once again, the tunics and hoods are off and they're left in the unitards. And then the final light comes on to the little piano note at the end of the show. It's a nicely done, very cute show. This guard's been progressing through the years and they're just getting better and better. So nice job, Northwest. Third place, we had Green Hope Varsity with their show Through These Rockings. They use a couple of songs. They start with a version of Baby Mine, and then they have a song called The Circle Game, and just it's a collection of songs. And they have a black floor with two white circle floor pieces, one inside two, one inside one. And then the one inside one has a crib in it, and then the one inside two has a rocking chair in it. They all start around the crib, and they do some body with pink pieces of material, kind of like blankets, and then rifles enter. And then they pull out white flags, I believe they were. Once again, flow camera. Then they do a rifle and flag moment. Maybe they're cream. I don't. It's just it's hard to tell. Hard to tell. Then they move to a saber entrance and a nice saber solo in the middle of the floor, and then they have a pretty white and blue flag that enters. It's like a fade from white at the top to blue at the bottom of the silk. And then they have all three pieces of equipment spinning, and they're all in circles and weaving in and out of each other. It's a really nice moment. So there's like a circle of guns, a circle of blades, a circle of flags, and they're all just kind of weaving in and out of each other while spinning. Then the music transitions to landslide, and they transition people off, and then a black and white faded flag. It's the same pattern as the blue, but now it's white to black. They have turnaround tosses on the lyrics when they're saying turned around. Nice little touch. We like when people play with the lyrics. Then they morph into a flag feature. They have a nice long feature with lots of layering before they start to peel off. And then we connect from the crib to the chair that ends the show. So we like the travel of life. So nice job, Green Hope Varsity. Second place was North Gwinnett High School with their show Invocation. And they have this really cool floor. It's colorful with like oranges and greens and blues. And it's kind of like a modern art of thing with like geometric shapes and colors. And it's really interesting. And the colors are kind of have like that 60s, 70s kind of vibe to them. So it's almost like an avocado green and then a lighter green and then that kind of that robin's egg blue and that sherbet orange. Like it's a really nice blend of colors. And then the guard is in all black, which is a good choice because there's so much color on the floor and they have a lot of color in the flags to have something like a base underneath it. And they're using the song Invocation by Bobby McFerrin. They start with rifle solos that they all nailed, and then they introduce a green flag with multiple shades of green and a strip of blue and a strip of orange, and it matches all the colors in the floor. Like their flags were very pretty. They're hard to describe because of the design on them. We continue with rifle and flag before switching to rifle and body, and they have a nice turnaround catch from a rifle soloist, and they transition into saber, and they pull out a lovely yellow and pink flag with orange in it. Once again, it's this design that's complicated. If you can find them on Instagram, they're really, really pretty. They do a saber and body and flag moment before we start transitioning to everybody on flag. And then they do an ensemble with these pink and yellow flags. And then we dwindle away to the circles on the floor. They prop the flags against each other to kind of make like a pyramid and standing them up, and then they walk away, and that's the end of the show. It's very cute. I love the colors. I love the silks. Nicely done. Our Scholastic A winner was Nation Forward High School and their show Looking for Something. And the music is a cover of Sweet Dreams by Eurythmics. And they have a black and blue floor with a giant crystal ball prop in the middle. Like it's an actual prop, it's not printed on the floor. And they're all dressed as fortune tellers in red with accents of gold. And they covered the crystal ball with a piece of sheer material at the beginning that gets revealed later. And they start with body all around the crystal ball in the middle. They have saber soloists in the backside one corner to get equipment going. More sabers enter. And then they introduce a purple flag with a white curved design on it. I think it's supposed to be like the edge of the crystal ball, kind of at the bottom, and it kind of goes along the rotation line of the flag. Then rifles begin to enter and they pull the fabric off of the crystal ball. And then all three pieces of equipment are working here. This is a common trend in a lot of these shows that you're going to see all three pieces of equipment working, which is really interesting for Scholastic A because I find that usually in Scholastic A and even Independent A, they usually just have one weapon on the floor at the time. They bring out the guns and then they switch to saber because usually you have one weapon line that spins both. When you get into world, open and world, you have more talent and more performers that you can split up into separate lines. So it was interesting to see how many of these A guards had all three pieces working at the same time. But they keep moving, and then a popcorn feature of really solid tosses happens, and the soundtrack really starts to build here. And now we're all on gun. And they spin very, very well. This guard was very good last year. They're very good this year. And it's only March. They still have plenty of weeks to clean, and they are going to Dayton this year. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. They pull out a red and yellow flag, and then we have an exchange of guns over the crystal ball. And then we have a flag feature with a flag in hand, and they have one of those little light up balls that people like to use. You know, those little white spheres that light up and you can make them any color that have become popular lately. So everybody has one, and then they're spinning a flag feature with that in their hand and the flag in the other. So they do this whole one handed flag feature, and then they pick the ball, the crystal ball, the giant one, up off the prop and bring it forward. And then we're all holding crystal balls at the end of the front. Looking to see how this progresses, looking to see how they do at Dayton. So great job, Nation Forward. Let's jump over to Austin and talk about their Scholastic A color guards and their top three. So in third place, they had Dripping Springs High School with their show Stairway to Heaven. This is a finalist from Dayton last year. They were eighth place in Scholastic A finals. Their floor is absolutely stunning, probably the prettiest floor I saw all weekend. It is a floor of clouds in rainbow hues. So it's just full of clouds, and there's like pinks and oranges and reds and blues and greens, and it's so crystal clear. They win the prettiest floor of the week award. It was stunning. And then they have three stairway props, about 4 or 5 stairs high, that are on wheels that they move around a little bit. They don't go crazy with them, but they do move them around a bit to kind of create some different spaces on the floor. And they open with body while they're all sitting on the stairs. And the guard is in white and khaki variants. You know how we could do like the mix and match uniforms. So they're all kind of like in white and khaki. Iridescent flags enter, and then they have a saber solo on the stairs. They're using Stairway to Heaven by Dolly Parton. And then more sabers enter, and they do a group toss. And then guns enter while sabers spin on the stairs. We do an ensemble rifle feature, and they spin a lot of gun. And the kids are very good at it, which is probably why they have so much gun in the show. We have sit rolls. We have a group sit roll toss of like 5 performers, and then just more gun and more gun. Finally, gold lame flags enter, and we have a feature, and the stairs shift a little bit as the show ends. It's a very nicely done. The kids are insanely talented, especially on rifle. Kind of what we expect out of Texas, right? These Texas guards don't play. Their weapons are always on point. So nice job, Dripping Springs. Second place, we had Oak Ridge High School and their show To Be Carried Home. And they had their floor was like faint colors of green and yellow and cream and kind of like large rectangles. And they had small box props for everybody. The guard was in yellow, kind of red as like a soft, like butter yellow, not like first flight yellow where they're like really yellow. This is like a pale yellow. They're using a couple songs by Willow, and they open with Home by Willow and John Batiste. And there's just more Willow songs in there. They open with body before guns enter, and they pull out these sheer green and pink flags. They have a flag and rifle section with big exchanges from the flag, like they're doing tosses back and forth to each other. Very, very nice. They have a shift in the soundtrack and they move to dark green flags. And there's also the sound of crickets chirping over the music. And they have a feature moment with these greens, and then the rifles enter back in with a cream flag along with them. And there's something green on it. I could not tell what it is. It looked like a bowl or something, or maybe it was a flower, but the way they were spinning and with the flow camera, I couldn't catch it. So if anybody from Oak Ridge wants to say, hey, this is what it is, I'd love to know. They do another feature with these, and then they move to the side two corner to end the show. It's very nice. It's a very pretty color story. Yeah, great job, Oak Ridge. First place, we had Friendswood High School with their show, The Ties That Bond. And they're using Gravity by Sarah McLachlan. And their floor is black with three large, I'm pretty sure they're neckties based on the show, The Ties That Bond. They all start in the back side one corner, and one kind of comes kind of on a 22-degree angle to the front of the floor. And then the big one comes all the way down the 45 to the other corner. And then one kind of stretches along the back. So there's three ties that kind of reach out from that corner. And they cover most of the floor. And this is printed on the floor. It's not like a prop. The guard is in simple blue dress costumes, and it's like super blue, like a saturated blue, really pops. They open with body, and then a gun comes flying out of the back corner to a performer on the floor. And these kids move really, really well. Like they're very good movers. That was the one thing I noticed about this. I was like, wow, these kids can move. They dance beautifully. They have a rifle and body for a good chunk, and then they add a brown and pink Argyle pattern flag. So that comes out and joins the guns. These kids are very good. They spin very well. They move very well. I know they moved down from open, I think this year, and you can see that the training is there, the skill is there. These kids are very good. I believe this is going to Dayton, one to keep an eye on. We keep progressing, and then a teal and white flag enters, and it's really pretty. And I like the contrast that it has against the color palette that's already on the floor. And they move to a feature. They do a gorgeous 4 count toss. Gorgeous. Like it was practically spotless. And then a nearly flawless 45 toss ripple to end the feature. Like this group's pretty clean already. Like they're popping and locking right now. They're doing great. They finish out with body and a solo flag in the backside one corner. And yeah, and then it ends. And this show's very beautiful. It's just simply beautiful. It's what I wrote. My outline was the final thing I wrote. Simply beautiful. So great job, Friendswood High School. Let's move on to Independent A. It's Charlotte. We're top three. For third place, we had FIG Independent and their show Remember My Name. This was a Medusa show with a very cool Medusa floor. The floor was very cool with like the snakes and the snake kind of pattern winding. And then just on the edge of side two, you see like half of Medusa's face. It's just a cool little way. Like she's not like centered on the floor. It's like taken from, she's pushed to the side. It kind of gives the floor a nice neutral palette to work with. The guard is in olive green pants and a cream top, and they open with body, and then a solo flag enters of kind of like an orangey brown terracotta color that fades to white. Sabers enter in the back before we add some guns, and then all three pieces are working on the floor. We have a little partner work section, and then the rifles toss, like the flags will hold their flag horizontally, and the rifles toss over it and walk under it to catch their gun. And then they do rifles and flags for quite a while. And then we have a nice trio toss on guns that was very effective. And then we move into a little rifle only feature before they introduce solid flags of green. And this is one of my favorite things that color guards do. They just pull out solid silks, and they went to like the band shop swatch catalog and said, I want this green, this green, this green, this green, this green. This green. Just went down the list, want them all. And then they put them out on the floor. And it has a lot of texture to it. I like the texture that it gives to the floor. And they're spinning, 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 and there's no rhyme or reason to who has what flag until we hit like the block moment of our flag feature. Then there's this nice ombre effect that goes from the side one corner, front corner to the back side two corner with the performers, where the greens kind of line up from a dark to light. It's a nice way to, it like locks in to give you that like you get that resolution of all the mix of colors, and then we get this nice fade. Really, really like it. They finish out with body. Nicely done. Second place was Carolina Visual Productions, more commonly called CVP, and their show Greater Heights. And I'm glad to see them still going. I competed against them back in the early 2000s when I marched in IA Guard in Virginia. And in AIA, we were the two independent A guards. It was us and CVP. And I'm happy to see they're still going. They don't have a base tarp. They just pull out 4 like squares that are maybe 6 feet by 6 feet that have circles of clouds printed on them, and they're really colorful. And they place them around the floor, starting inside one corner, then kind of back a little more towards center. Then they come up on side 2, kind of near center, and then back side 2 corner. And then they put a ladder on each of the props in the middle of that circle of clouds, like you're climbing up through the clouds. And the ladders get bigger as we go across the floor. So the side one is the shortest, and the side 2 back corner is the tallest. They all start around the side 1 ladder and they open with body. They have rifle solos in front of each ladder, which were excellently done. And then we enter with pink flags. They have a moment of flag and gun before the music transitions, and then they go to everyone on gun. The all rifle section is very nice, and they start climbing up on the ladders a bit, but they don't go very high. And that's honestly probably due to the safety and harnessing rules that WGI put in last year. You don't get the performer climbing all the way up the ladder because they just can't do it because of the rules. So it's a shame we don't get that moment, but there's really nothing they can do about it unless she was like full on in a harness and clips and everything, and that's just kind of going to kill the moment. So I think the juice wasn't worth the squeeze in that regard. So like, we'll just do what we can. The rifle section lasts a long time. They do a great job with it, and then they transition to saber and a new flag, and it's like a sky full of clouds and a sunset. So there's lots of those sunset colors on the flag, like reds and oranges, and that hint of purple and pink and a little hint of yellow. And then they do that for a bit, and then they pull out another flag for the flag feature, kind of in the same color scheme, like rainbowy with a mostly like white sky blue kind of motif. And they have a flag feature there, and then they all move to the side 2 back ladder, the tall one, and a performer starts to climb it while everyone reaches up for the performer, and that's the end of the show. Like they're reaching up for the to climb higher to the greater heights, right? That's the name of the show. Yeah, great job, CVP. Glad to see you still out on the floor. Our Charlotte IA winner was JMU Nuance A with their show Stevie and Lindsay Love on Stage. And their floor has a digitally printed guitar on it that takes up a big chunk of the side 1 on an angle. And they have some small wedge bench props, and they have some microphone stands. And then they put strips of fabric down to use as the guitar strings. And then they set the rifles down on the neck of the guitar. I don't know what it's called, but you know, like those lines you see on the guitar so you can change the notes with your fingers. They put the guns there. Nice little staging moment for equipment. And they use music by Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac. And the guard is in maroon and orange. Mostly maroon with like hints of orange. They start with body to the song Rhiannon, and then sabers enter and a purple flag as well. Then the song changes and we move into rifle. The flag line grabs the microphone stands and brings them out onto the floor. Then the rifles end up moving to where the guitar is on the floor, and they have a feature there, and they're picking up the strings, and there's people inside the strings, and they're tossing and they're spinning and doing this whole little section in the guitar, which is really cool. Then there's another song transition, and they bring out a silver lame flag for a flag ensemble. I didn't recognize the song, but I did hear in the lyrics, like, I'll be your silver star or something to that effect of the word silver in there. So that's why they're pulling out the silver lame flags. And then they transition out with body and the show ends. And this guard's getting better and better each year. They made semis the past 2 years. I know they're trying to push to make finals now in Independent A. So keep working and you can get there. Nicely done. Let's move to Independent A in Austin. And our third place unit was Tarleton State University Purple Pride with their show Back to the Classics. And they have like a parchment style floor, like an old music score colored, you know, like it's been faded and burned around the edges. And they have music stand props. And the guards in dark uniforms with a full back skirt. And it gives the effect that they're wearing like long dresses. Like when they walk, you can see they're not in a dress, but just because of how big and full the skirt is, it gives the effect of a long dress. And they used music from the Hooked on Classics series. I don't know if you remember this. This was a huge thing in the 80s. And it's classical music set to like a dance beat. And it's just like you take a medley of popular classical music and you kind of put like a kick drum beat underneath it. And there's multiple tracks out there. They're a fun listen. So that's what they're using. They start with all 3 pieces of equipment on the floor. And then we transition in a down moment to sabers and body. And then guns come back out when Beethoven's Fifth starts playing. Flags and rifles have a moment before we go to all gun. And then we move to a flag feature of green and pink flags. It's just a lot of fun. It's a fun show. The music's fun. You'll recognize so much of the music. Like, oh yeah, I know this song. And then the show's over because you're just like, oh, you're just bopping along. And you're like, oh, they're done. I was enjoying the show. So nicely done, Tarleton State. Second place was Redemption Guard and their show, The Brain, My Heart. And they have a purple and red floor. It's red in the front side 2 corner, purple in the back side one corner, and it's divided on a 45, and the word decide in big capital letters goes between, and it's not fully visible, like part of the letters disappear, but you can see that it says decide. They open with body, like during a voiceover talking about choosing between your heart or your brain for making decisions. And that's what the whole concept of the show is. So they have a red section for the heart, that purpley blue section for the brain in the back corner. And they enter with a blue flag with a brain on it, and then guns enter in the brain section. Then we have rifles and sabers spinning, and then a red flag for the heart enters. And then we have flags and sabers going on in the heart section, and guns and body in the brain. Lots of this back and forth, two voices kind of thing happening through this show. Then they have a saber solo into red and blue flags. So they do a feature with these red and blue flags. So we're playing with both of the colors, right? They do a feature, and then we end the show. It's a cool idea. I like the whole back and forth, the red and blue, and using the different spaces. So our first place group was RGV Winter Guard and their show Hip to Be Square. They made finals last year, and I believe they were the fan favorite last year in Independent A, if I remember correctly. I think that last year their show was all the shades of green. RGV, if you're listening, I think that's what it was, right? When you did all the greens. Well, this year they're going with another color, and this is my favorite. I love this show so much because everything is orange. They have an orange floor with orange little box props for everybody, almost like milk crate sized box props. And I love it already. Like they pulled this orange floor and everything, and then they are in a like a nice light sky blue uniform that really pops against the orange because that's the opposite color in the spectrum. They pop off the floor, and it's all kind of like jazz and hip and funk kind of music. So they start with Take Five, very common jazz piece that we've heard many times. Then it goes into straight into Memphis. Then they use The Beat Goes On, and then they use What Is Hip. There's so many songs in here that you'll recognize. They start with sabers, which are very strong. Then they pull out this green flag that once again pops off of the orange floor. The soundtrack changes and we move to gun, and the green flags stay out. Then we're tossing off the boxes. We're on the boxes, we toss, we jump off. Yellow flags enter, and then we have a rifle body flag moment in groups on the props. It's like a little trio thing happening at each box. And then we move to the backside one corner as the guns lead us there. And then there's a nice toss. I think there's like three of them that toss a nice, like, big rifle toss, and they catch right on the big bump of What Is Hip. Tarpon did this in the Origins of Cool show they did a few years ago. It was kind of the song they ended the show with. So if you were like, oh, I recognize this, that's where you've heard it. Been used quite a few times in color guard and marching band and drum corps. Out come purple flags with squares on them that look like gold, but I'm probably sure it's orange to go with the whole orange motif that they have going on. And then rifles continue, and then the rifles transition to these purples. We have a flag feature, and we're spinning and moving the boxes at the same time and kind of condensing down to the center of the floor, and we finish. This is a fun, energetic show with lots of color. They could be pushing for fan favorite again because it is just that engaging and that fun and bright and memorable. I loved it. I loved it. Let's move on to Scholastic Open. We're going to jump to Charlotte, and we're just going to say right now, Flo hated open class in general. River Bluff and Dobbins Bennett were near impossible to get a good read on because of the streams. I don't know what was going on. I don't know why it was so bad, especially in open class. Even World wasn't as bad, but open class was just awful. I mean, River Bluff, half their show was that black and gray screen. I'm sure you've seen pictures going around. I think the stream crashed during Dobbins Bennett in prelims, maybe finals, I forget, but just straight up crashed. So going off of what we could see, let's just putting that out there now for all three of these Scholastic Open groups. Third place was River Bluff High School and their show Folded in Hope. It's an origami show. And they were our bronze medalist in Scholastic A last year. So they got promoted to open. Like I said, I got what I could on this. Both days of the streams were not behaving for them. They had a pink and white floor with kind of like a flower in the bottom left, probably like a Japanese cherry blossom. And they have like pink patchwork style uniforms, right? Our classic color guard patchwork with the leg is one color, this leg is another color. Then you have the stomach piece and the breast piece and the arm. They're all kind of in those same shades. So when I say a patchwork uniform, that's what I'm talking about. Not like actual patchwork, like scarecrow kind of thing. They start with body. They do a lot of body at the beginning. And then they open up a section on the floor in Saber Center. So they have three sections on the middle of the floor that open up to reveal a digital print of like folded cranes flying through the air. They introduce a light pink flag and saber, and they do a saber and flag moment. And they have a great, it was a really nice saber turnaround from three of the performers. I was like, yes. When I saw, I was like, yes. Rifles enter with solo tosses, and then a blue flag with a pink origami crane on it, from what I can tell, enters. And then they spin rifle, and then they change the flags to an orange and red one. And then the orange and red ones come out for a feature, and it's lovely. And then they dissipate out and all come to the front and end the show. This is all I could get out of the feeds. If I missed any fun details, I'm sorry, River Bluff, blame Flow. Hopefully, if you come back out to another Flow regional, you get a better streaming experience. But I liked what I saw, and I think they handled the transition to open this year very, very well. Second place, we had Holly Springs High School and their show In Good Company, and this was the Peanuts show, not Peanuts the food, but Peanuts as in the comic strip, Charlie Brown, Snoopy, and all that. And their pre-show is Linus and Lucy, the piano song you hear every Christmas that gets beat to death. You hear Mariah Carey, then you'll hear Kelly Clarkson, and then you'll hear this song, and then it just kind of repeats on a loop. And the song they're using for the show is You've Got a Friend, version by Lady Gaga. From what I could tell, Shazam wouldn't pick it up, but I'm pretty sure this is Lady Gaga's voice. Their floor is like a blank comic strip that's drawn in the Peanuts style. And the kids are dressed in costuming of like the various characters. So like one boy's in all yellow like Charlie Brown, and then they have girls dressed like Lucy and Peppermint Patty, and there's Linus. They're all dressed like different characters in their colors. Then we have piano. There's a piano prop. Schroeder's piano's in the front left, and Snoopy's house is in the back right. And then they have a bench in front side too. So these are actual like props on the floor. And then right from the jump, we get saber solos and tosses. And then they bring out blue flags for Linus's blanket, because they have like a piece of material that is his blanket that they're dancing with. And then they move to a flag, which I missed. I was like, did they just magically turn these into a flag? Or maybe they transitioned, but I missed it. So they're spinning the same blue material. And at one point, the flags disconnect like at the tab, but the rest of the flags stay on. So they don't like slide up the pole. It's like there was a piece of Velcro at the tab and they disconnect it, and then the shape of the flag changes. So it's not like the strip of toilet paper that I call it, when the flag comes completely untaped and it goes all the way to the top of the pole. They still have 2/3 of the flag that's connected to the pole. So it just changes the shape. It's a really cool effect. It elongates the flag. I was like, oh, that's neat. Kind of like Linus dragging his blanket behind him. So it's probably the connection they were going with there. And then we have a piano flag enters that it's a pink and blue, and then it has like a piano keyboard on the bottom of it. And then they also introduce a solo yellow flag with Woodstock on it, right? The little Snoopy's little bird friend, if you don't know his name, Woodstock. And that person's spinning on the piano. And there's a very cool rifle solo here. Then my stream started going south, so I had to go search another performance, and I found that they do solo gun tosses, and the soloist ends, we do a double turn with the backhand catch. And then they pull out flags that are drawn in a comic book style that have Charlie Brown and Snoopy on it. And they do a flag feature with this. The flag feature was great, written very well, lots of cool effects in this. And then we dissipate out. We finish with the Woodstock flag and a gun, and they all end on the bench. Very, very nice. I wish the stream was better, but the show itself is great. The kids are incredibly talented. They're handling themselves in open class very well. They made finals last year. Hopefully they make it again this year. Keep up the great work, Holly Springs. Our winner was Dobbins Bennett High School and their show, The Tale of the Sun and the Moon. And this is their third year in Scholastic Open. They won Scholastic A back in 2023 with their Bride of Frankenstein show. And this year, their floor is purple and black with like stars in the sky. And they have a giant crescent moon prop that sits on side 2. And they have a performer dressed in white that sits in the prop the whole show. The guard uniforms, let me tell you about these. So they are in silver, I'm guessing. Flow camera, I could not tell, but they're in silver sequins. And the uniform is mostly sequins. It's a unitard. It has sections of black on it, but it's mostly sequin. And this sequin, I don't know if it was just the camera positioning or the lighting, but it is super, super sparkly. And I approve. It is amazing, especially when they move around the floor. They're just twinkling everywhere they go. It adds just that extra little effect to the whole performance, just because you watch them throughout the whole show, and these uniforms are just so, you almost feel like they have lights on their uniforms that they've turned a switch on and that are blinking. Like, that's how sparkly they are. And the uniforms, it's not just like, oh, it's a pretty uniform. Like, no, it adds like an extra layer to the entire performance because they just, yeah, designed beautifully. I don't know if it's silver. Through the camera, it looks silver, but it could be maybe like a faint purple or something. But anyway, who cares? It's beautiful. They're using the song To Love You More by Voctiv and I have a feeling this is a group we're going to be hearing a lot of. I think this is the fourth guard I've reviewed that's using this musical group. And I don't know if they're new or what, but their music is great for color guard. Just the way they do these a cappella arrangements of pieces and songs. I have a feeling we're going to be hearing a lot of Voctave in the years to come. They have a saber solo right at the jump, and then we move into sabers and body. And I wrote this so many times on my outlines, like, God, they're so sparkly. And then a blue and purple flag enters, right? Because we're going with the moon theme, and it's very pretty. And they have a flag and saber moment. The flag line is amazing. Nice job, flag line. Yes. Clap for the flags, people. Clap for the flags. We have a ripple moment that leads to a gun entrance, and then more rifles enter, and the blue flags stay out. We have some turnaround tosses, and then more guns add in, and a yellow flag with something on it is introduced. I could not figure out what it is. I tried going to Instagram, I couldn't get a picture of it, so I don't know. But they pull like a yellow flag. I'm sure we're going with our sun motif at this point because that's the name of the show, the moon and the sun. But I couldn't tell what was on the flag. We have a popcorn feature from the guns, and then more yellows enter, and then they head to the feature. And these kids are twirling during this feature. And once they get this clean, this is going to be really nice because of the way the design on the flag works. Yeah. I mean, it's already pretty clean, but once they get this like clean, this is going to be really nice. Really nice. They work their way off the floor to finish with a final body statement. And once again, just that sparkle of the sequin just adds a whole extra layer. I've said it so many times, but I mean, it really does make a huge difference in this show. And then they all move their way to the moon prop, and then we end the show. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And this is going to be a fun one to watch in Dayton. Let's move to Austin Scholastic Open. There were 11 groups competing here. We're going to do the top four, mainly because fourth was Pearland High School and their show House Rules, and I had to do this one. This is the techno show that I was super excited to see when they did the show announcement. I'm like, I need to see this one, and they didn't disappoint. They were fourth place in Scholastic Open last year at Dayton after they self-promoted themselves. You're like, you know what? We're really good. We're going to move up to open, made the decision themselves, and then almost got bumped to world in the same season. They missed it by one spot. It was close. Floor is really bright neon colors. So they have like going vertically north to south. They have a strip of green and then a strip of purple and then a strip of pink and then another green and then a blue. And underneath all that, there's like little sound waves and numbers all over it. And then right out of the gate, they're hitting the beat with body and getting the crowd into it. You have me hooked from the jump with this show. They have rifles come out and do lots of big tosses, and they continue to spin with dancers on the floor. Eventually, a flag comes out that's like black with green and pink streaks on the end of it. They move into trios of rifle, dancer, and flag. Lots of tosses, lots of spinning, lots of gun in this show. They have a new flag that comes out with neon green, pink, and black, and more rifle tosses. We get an everybody dance now toss. You remember back to the 90s? The everybody dance now, right? That they toss the gun in the air. Everybody dance now happens and they catch. Then we have flags open up. We do an ensemble flag explosion, and every performer has a colored flag that has a black bottom along the silk, but it's mostly green, pink, blue, purple, whatever. And they're within that section of the floor. We talked about those vertical strips. So the green flags are in the green section, the pink flags are in the pink section, all that. And then we get one more everybody dance now flag toss. And then we move to the center. It ends with a bang with a rifle toss, catching around a dancer and a dip. And yeah. I love Pearland. Keep cleaning, keep getting better. I want to see this in finals. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's move on to third place, James Bowie High School. They were a finalist last year in Scholastic Open as well. They were 13th in Dayton. And I'm sorry, y'all, I missed this one. I couldn't get to it on the rebroadcast. I don't know what happened. I failed. I'm sorry. I failed on this one. Thankfully, I was able to talk to somebody that was there, and they gave me a little bit of info to work with. So shout out to Harry Vasquez. Thank you so much. You're a lifesaver. Their show is called Still Life, and they're using the Eric Whitacre Corral version of Depeche Mode's Enjoy the Silence, which Emerson High School used last year. So if it sounds familiar, that's where you've heard it. The guard is in black and white uniforms, kind of like with striped sections, and then they have hints of yellow and or purple on their uniform. And then they have mannequins all around the floor. And there's like a lot of them. I don't know, maybe like 15-ish. Maybe that might be generous, but they have a lot of mannequins. I do remember seeing those. And then Harry said he feels the story of the show is about the mannequins coming to life after the store closes. And he complimented their skills. He said, especially their rifle line, they're incredibly, incredibly talented. And that's unfortunately all I have on this one because I missed it. So thank you again, Harry. I appreciate your help and give me something to cover. And sorry to James Bowie that I didn't get to cover you properly, but I don't know what happened. I'm a flop on this one. I'm sorry. Second place, we had Ronald Reagan High School with their show Finding Joy, and they use a cover of the song Smile. I believe originally credited to Charlie Chaplin. I believe that's the original. And they have floors like a picture of a roller coaster looking through like rose-colored lenses, and they're in like a vest and tie costume with a skirt, and they open with body. They have a solo flag enter, and it's like a pinky orange with like a Ferris wheel on it, maybe from what I could see. Sabers enter, and then more flags join. Rifles begin to enter from the back as sabers transition to gun. They have a ripple toss that takes us to a pink and purple flag introduction, and then more of these flags enter, and they have a very nice feature of these behind a row of guns in the front. The flags were definitely the highlight of that section. Very, very nicely done. And then they dwindle down to a couple guns and some more body. The show ends with a high rifle toss. It's beautiful, elegant, and simple. It's not overdone. It's just one of those little understated shows. It's just nicely done. It's a very nice color guard show. So good job, Ronald Reagan. First place was Westlake High School, and they were sixth place in Dayton last year in Scholastic Open Finals. So lots of Scholastic Open finalists here. And they have a burgundy floor, and performers are in red with like black accents, but it's mostly red. And they have these poles that are standing up on the floor, probably good, what, 12 feet high, maybe a little bigger. And they have like mesh strips connecting them. I couldn't really tell what it was because of the flow camera, but they have these strips that are connecting them, and I don't know what they represent, but they don't move. They just kind of stay there. They open with body, and then the saber soloist enters, and then we have more sabers enter, and then a single red flag enters in the back. The soundtrack picks up as gun enters, and they work all three pieces as the flag is solo, and then eventually the soloist gets some friends to join them with flag. The baseline piece is like a string piece, and then they have Linger by the Cranberries kind of layered over it at times. They move to all rifle and flag, and they have a nice rifle catch on a music stop. And then a yellow and red flag enters, and we head to a flag feature with it. They compress down to the front and continue the feature in a tight space, and then we end the show. It's a nice show. I don't know what the props represent, but I feel like Westlake style is kind of like an abstract kind of vibe. Because thinking back to last year as well, where you're just kind of left to like wonder, like, I wonder what that is, and kind of make your own story out of it. The kids are talented, and it's looking like this is going to make finals again. I think they're going to Dayton. So I know with the Texas groups they can't go every year. So, but I believe they're going. I'd have to check that one. So, congrats, Westlake. Nicely done. Let's move on to Independent Open, and we're going to jump to Charlotte. And our third place Independent Open guard was Opus Winter Guard with their show Tea at 6, or also known as Flow Marching Absolutely Hates Your Color Guard. Poor Opus. I was so excited to see this, and this was probably the worst color guard for the Flow stream. Both prelims and finals. Finals. Oh my God. Finals was unwatchable. Yeah. Ugh. Flow. Ruining this experience for us. And I did talk to somebody at the Charlotte Regional, and they were airing the regional at the school. Like they had TVs outside the gym, and they were airing the Flow broadcast there. And they were saying the same thing there. So I know everybody had the same experience from Flow. So they said they were getting upset there too because, you're not in the gym, you're watching outside, and they just saw how bad it was. But I was able to piece together pretty much most of the show. They were second place in Independent A last year. They got promoted to Open, and they have handled this transition beautifully. Sometimes we worry about our promoted guards and how they're going to handle the new class. Not a problem for Opus. As I said, finals was basically unwatchable for them, and prelims was okay at best. There were some moments, but I think I was able to see those moments in finals, so kind of jumping between performances. But it's Alice in Wonderland inspired, and they had a green floor with Roman numerals and like a pocket watch kind of printed on it, and they have big tables that are on wheels they move around, and some chairs. The guard is dressed up in like sport coats with ruffles and frills, kind of like you would expect out of somebody going to the Tea Party and Alice in Wonderland and the White Rabbit. They start with body and saber tosses right from the go, and then they move to the table and they bring sabers back out. Like there's a performer that kind of walks along the top of the tables, and they start bringing sabers back out. And during this section, they're using a piece from the same album that Voxardium used for their Bloody Mary music. It's the same vibe. So if you're like, this sounds familiar, that's why. We continue spinning these sabers, and then out comes a flag of kind of like a purple and blue and green. And the tables are now scattered all around the floor, and people are on them while we saber and flag. And then we have a popcorn feature of sabers that ends with a gun solo, and that's how they introduce rifles. And then the music switches to Phil Collins' Against All Odds, which you may not know by the title, but it's the Take a Look at Me Now. That song, that's what the song is. They reset the stage by putting the tables on a diagonal 50, and they add more rifles. So the rifles are in the back corner, side 2 corner, and then other bodies are in the front side 1 corner. And they have a nice like ensemble rifle turnaround in that section. And then a red flag with what I'm pretty sure is a gold clock hand comes flying out, and we work towards a flag ensemble with these flags. Now, this flag has a very small circle on it that is literally right in the spin spot when they spin these flags. I don't know if this was purposely designed or if it just magically lined up, but when they spin and they spin in unison and that little circle goes around, it's like one of those like oddly satisfying things. You're like, wow, it has almost like a hypnotizing effect. So when they get this flag ensemble like spotless, it's going to be really cool because of the way these circles line up right in the spin spot, like right in the rotation point. The up tempo comes back as we work towards an ending with a few flags and guns and body, and then all the tables and chairs are brought to the center 50 vertically, and we end with a saber toss, and it's the end. Nicely done. I was interested to see what they were going to do because they are a promoted group and see how they handled the transition. They handled it lovely. They did wonderful, very strong. They're going to keep cleaning. They're going to keep getting better. And, who knows if they make finals? Independent Open is such a toss up at this point. You can't really peg anybody because we have 47 groups that are trying to make finals. And hopefully those other 7 get in to prelims. But Independent Open is going to be crazy tight this year. And many, many very good groups are going to miss finals. So keep pushing, y'all. Keep cleaning. Keep getting better so you can be one of those 15. Second place, we had Noir Independent making their Flow premiere and their show Through These Rooms. And this is a big 180 from last year. Last year, they did the typewriter show. Well, they were one of the typewriter shows. They were the white and black typewriter show. Gage Chile was like the 60s, 70s avocado, green, blue show. And I loved Noir last year. One of my favorites. And I love them again this year. But going back to last year, I really loved Noir's show. Everything is kind of in like browns and tans and those like peachy kind of colors, and they're using music You're Not Here by Cynthia Erivo. And the floor is like if you were looking at like you want to rent an apartment and you're looking at the apartment layout and you have just, the black lines that kind of show you where the walls and the doors are, and here's the kitchen, here's the bedroom and all the measurements on it. That's what their floors looks like, just without all that extra information. Just has the walls and the door openings. And they do some clever staging at the beginning. They're all laying down on the lines where the walls of the rooms are, but they don't lay down where the doors are. They only lay down on the lines. So I like that little tiny touch. They're in wide-legged unitards in brown and beige tones, and they open with body before entering guns. And then this has to be my rifle performer from last year that came out and cracked this toss, because I was like, I have a feeling that's the same performer because I could tell by the catch, just that smack of that catch. I'm like, that's that same one from last year. Nicely done. Nicely done. Snaps, claps, whatever. Yes, mama. Yes, queen, whatever. Everything. All of that. We have rifles and flags begin to enter as we have a brown to white flag that kind of matches the floor and costuming colors that comes out. We do rifle and flag. Rifles work on side 1 while flags work on side 2. Then we have a section where we do a rifle ripple tosses on the benches because they have 5 benches on the floor. So they'll do like a solo sit roll toss over the bench, and this across the floor to a saber soloist to introduce our sabers. Their weapons are very strong. We have flags come back out to join sabers, and I think it's the same flag. I couldn't tell. Maybe it's just like slight change in color, but I'm like, I think this is the same flag. And they have a really nice part where just a dancer just runs across the floor when the lyrics say, I want to run into your arms. So they run across the floor and then they leap into like a pod of people waiting to catch them, like a cheerleader catch kind of thing. Once again, just nice little touch of playing with the lyrics. Like, oh, I want to run. They're running. I want to run into your arms. And that's literally what they do. They run and jump into their arms. Yes. We move to all 3 pieces working on the floor. They have a nice flagline moment on the floor while the weapons are on the edge. And then we go back to a weapon feature before a lovely pink and white ombre flag comes out. And they ensemble with those, a lovely 45 knee slide toss. Yes. And then they all go to the back of the floor. and lift up the edge of the floor and stand behind it to disappear, leaving a single performer left on the floor to go with the song title, You're Not Here. And that's how we end the show. I like this a lot. It's beautifully done. It's a big change from last year, big shift of energy, and their weapons are great. Flags are great. And that one rifle performer, snaps for you, snaps for everybody, but they knew who I'm talking about. They knew who I'm talking about. Let's move on to our independent open winner from Charlotte, and that was First Flight with their show When It Rains, It Pours. And they have a blue floor with a white swirl pattern, and then they have rain lines that are coming down on a diagonal in the backside two corner. And they're in bright yellow costumes inspired by the Morton Salt Girl, from the iodized salt package. They've posted on their Instagram that this was kind of their inspiration for like the floor and the costuming. And they're using fantasy impromptu, just like Miamisburg High School is. Very fast, very difficult piano piece by Chopin. And sabers start immediately with exchanges to performers on the floor and lots of tosses. Then we have rifles enter from the side two back corner, and they have fast twirls to match the fast soundtrack. And the flag line is working with umbrellas because we're going with the whole raining thing, which is unfortunately kind of worked out that a lot of people are using it on that show theme this year. We had Hope last year with the same song. There's a lot of umbrellas and rain shows this year. And then one of the big highlights of the show, they have a ripple weapon toss that goes all the way across the floor from side one to side two. And then there's a saber soloist in back side two corner and throws like a nice 7, something nice and high, and just catches it. Nice little moment. And then out come blue flags with rain lines on them. And I'm assuming it's like the Morton Salt Girl on them, flow camera, but you can see that little strip of yellow there. So I think it's supposed to be like the girl with the umbrella that's on the salt. I believe that's on the flag, or it's at least inspired by that. The piece picks back up, and then we move, and then all the weapons are on gun now. And then we have a soundtrack change to I'm Always Chasing Rainbows by Barbra Streisand. The rifles come back out and join an iridescent flag on the floor, and then we ensemble with a grayish flag with something on it. I couldn't really tell. The camera was not being a friend here. And they do a big jazz split 45 ripple before working our way off to body again. And then there's a quick fuerte feature from a dancer before ending the show. Like they bring back just the quick little ripple run section from Fantasy Impromptu at the very end of the show with the performer with the umbrella. They set it down, and that ends the show. It's excellent. It's very well done. They're incredibly strong. They're sitting atop the rankings or near the top of the rankings, and this is going to be one to watch, and they could be a medalist at Dayton, one to keep an eye out for, but there's also another group here that we got to keep an eye out for a possible medalist at Austin. So let's go over there. Our third place group in Independent Open at Austin was Industry Independent with their show Gone. And their floor, I couldn't really tell what it was. I think it was like a picture of a bridge that's like super faded and distorted, almost like a hand drawing of it. And then the guard is in black or navy, like some sort of dark color. And the song is Gone by Benjamin Clementine. They have a body opening with a dancer with a single umbrella, yet another umbrella. Sabers enter with a nice solo, and then more sabers start up. And then the flags enter in the side one back corner while sabers continue to spin. And it's a very pretty black and white flag. Now we have rifles join, and we're working with all three pieces of equipment with a lot of movement in the staging. Like they're trucking. They are just moving around the floor and spinning. There's a lot of motion on the floor. And then the flags throw an impeccable toss. And the crowd did nothing. You know what I'm going to say. You know why I'm irritated. Because what happens right after that is the rifles throw a quad. This is an independent open guard, right? We know they can throw a quad. The rifles throw a quad, they catch it, and the kids in the crowd lost their damn minds over a rifle quad. Meanwhile, 20 seconds earlier, the flag line threw this impeccable toss, and people were like, okay, whatever. I'm breathing here. Breathing. Clap for the flags, people. If I do anything in this sport at all, is I'm going to get people to cheer for the flag lines. I don't care how many times I have to say it, who I have to fight with. I don't care if I have to go to WGI headquarters myself. I will make it happen. Clap for the flag lines. Anyway, after this quad, everybody goes to the border and they grab a white and kind of like a golden, brownish, yellowy flag. They have like little splotches of this color on the floor. So that's where they're getting the tone from. And they do a very quick flag feature with a nice 45. And then the umbrella ends up walking off the floor to end the show. Let's move on to second place. We had Undaunted and their show, no show title. There was no announcement. It just said performing their show. WGI is proud to present. So I don't know what their show title is. They have a black and white marbled floor, and then in the backside one corner, there's a strip of white, a strip of black, and a strip of red, probably about 3 feet wide. That's, just like a nice rectangle. And then they put vertical props on the floor that connects to them to take that whole rectangle, that line vertically into like a 3D dimension. Then they have like a mesh thing that's up in the front right, like a canopy. And then in the back right, they have some small props as well. And then in front side one, they have just a big like red rectangle bench prop that's like four of them connected. Lots of little props. The props don't move, they're stationary. The guard is in gray. And the song is a saxophone piece called Pearls. It's just like a jazz saxophone piece. So we start with sabers entering at the stripes that are in the back side one back corner. And flags enter with a white flag with some sort of design on it. Couldn't tell what it was. And then guns enter later. We work with all three on the floor. And then dark gray flags are on briefly with some rifle tosses. Like they were only on for like 4 or 5 16s and they disappeared. I'm like, where'd the flags go? So just one of those quick little transition moments. The dancers come out with a strip of yellow fabric and they're dancing with it. I'm not sure why, but they do. But they'll wrap the guns in it and the guns toss. They're kind of doing the partner stuff with a piece of material. And we have a forward roll gun solo into a flag being thrown over the props on side one. So rifle solo, forward roll, catch, and then flags kind of pop over those standing up props on the back of side one that I was talking about. And they keep feeding flags in that way as we move into a red and white flag feature. They have a very, very well done 45 toss, and then there's some more tosses after that. Then the weapons come back out briefly, and everything just starts to dissipate, and then the show ends. I don't know what the show's about. I don't get the story, but the spinners are great. Like, I don't know if there is a story. Like, this could just be, it's a color guard show, right? We're spinning on a floor. I don't think there's a through line, but the spinners are great. Great tricks, great tosses, kind of what you'd expect out of Texas. Yeah, nicely done. Let's move on to our first place guard in Independent Open, and this was Origins Open and their show Before I Stood. And they have a bright white hardwood floor with a tan center. It's kind of marbles around that edge, and then it goes into a tan in the center. And they have a single table with two chairs that sit in the center of the floor. The music is a version of She Used to Be Mine that's a duet between Sarah Bareilles and Rufus Wainwright. The guard is dressed in dark gray pants and a light gray shirt that they later take off. And they open with body and lots of breath. That's the one thing I noticed real quickly. They are breathing and you can hear that breath. And yes, snaps for the breathing. A white flag enters, and then we have sabers join, and then rifles join in with duet tosses. And then there's a performer that's standing on the table with a gun, and he does this big toss that he chucks behind him to another performer on the floor. One of those blind tosses, like, here you go, take it. And the rifles take off their top to reveal, I believe, a pink and purple part of their unitard underneath it. So, like, the pants come up in this gray color, probably to about the middle of the stomach. And then it starts to change, like right probably at the rib cage into like a pink and purple kind of thing. I couldn't tell if it was sequins or just kind of like a lycra or whatever. I couldn't tell because I'm looking through the flow camera. The flags enter with a white and purple flag. There's a deep purple saturated on the top half. And then we have more rifles spinning. Then we have rifles and flags separate into the corners. The rifles come down to front side one corner. The flags go to back side two. The rifles are undressed at this point. The flags are not. They still have their cover up on. And they're playing with the two voices in the song. Very well done. And then the rifles have an ensemble turnaround that is excellent. And then we move to an ensemble moment of a pink and purple flag with a strip of like really, really light purple in the middle. It reads as white, but it's not white. And it's a really pretty flag. Very pretty. And it spins beautifully. They do a very lovely feature with it. And they end up dwindling down, and everyone ends up at the table, and then there's a soloist at the front. It's beautiful. I can see why it's at the top of the class right now. This is the other one I mentioned that very good chance of being a medalist. I know all bets are off when you get to Dayton, and there's still a long way to go. But just kind of looking at what we've seen so far, Origins and First Flight are kind of the head of the class at this point. But remember, Color Guard is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And, these guards that come out early done and score high, and then their scores kind of flatline. And then you have these guards that build over the season, like those slow burn color guards we've talked about. They might be scoring low at the beginning of the season, but then they're top 5 at Dayton because they just keep working. So we know all bets are off, but currently this is what we're looking at. So Origins. It's beautiful. I love it. Scholastic World, we're going to stay in Austin because we didn't have any in Charlotte. So, third place, we had Flower Mound High School with their show Wallflower, and they're using a cover of the ABBA song Dancing Queen. It's like a ballad version of it. And they have a black floor with a black design on it that didn't read on the camera, but I could see that it was on the floor. And they have 6 large props that are a combination of bench and wall. So they're probably a good 8 feet wide and 6 feet tall, probably longer than that. They might even be like 10 feet wide and 8 feet tall. And there's a bench with a wall behind it. And they're kind of like in a dirty moss covered stone look. So if you ever played the game Power Wash Simulator and you go to like a building and you got to clean it, so it kind of has that look to it. I think it's just meant to be like a stone that's just, been worn like in a public park and it's got some dirt on it and some moss on it. So it's like that kind of colored look. And the guard is in gray costumes with a gray see-through shawl top to kind of give them the same dirty look to match the props, or mossy look. I don't want to say dirty because I don't like that word, but I can't think of a better word right now. But you can see there's something underneath, and it does come off to reveal later. They start with body and they move the props to section off the front side one corner. So there's a single performer there and everybody's behind them. I will say, because of the camera angle, it revealed the back of the prop, which is not revealed until the end of the show. So you kind of get spoiled on it. So I don't know how, maybe that's something they could maybe look at changing that angle to more of a 45. So the people in the front aren't spoiled by the quote unquote surprise that's coming later. They introduce black flags with a red flower on it, and they throw this gorgeous whip 45. And people actually clapped for it. I was excited. I was like, yay, people are clapping for the flag line because it was a beautiful toss. And then guns join in and we're spinning together. The flag line is excellent. Their flag line, yes, get it, flags. Their flag line is excellent. We have some dancers come out without that sheer top, and it reveals a nice bright red and white bodice on their unitard. And then sabers enter as the props continue to move around, and we still haven't seen the backside of them yet. We don't see them until the very end of the show, unless you're in the back stands, and that's all you're seeing. Sabers and dancers work to the front while flags enter in the back, and this time with a flag with, I believe it's a calla lily on it. I'm pretty sure that's a calla lily. And then more members have taken off the cover up, and we move to an ensemble with these flags. I call them white. They're black, but the design's so white and light that that's the predominant color on the flag. And they have a ripple sit roll 45 toss, and then the props move to the center horizontal 50, and they turn them around to reveal a brightly colored flower panel on each of the props, and that's the end of the show. So the guards completely undressed at that point, and then the props reveal. I almost feel like you could have done that earlier. Like, I know we're waiting, and then we finally get it. I don't know. Maybe you could have done it for the flag feature. I don't know. Maybe something to look at, just because you have these beautiful prints that we don't see until literally like the last like 5 seconds of the show. Like, it's literally how they end the show. They turn them around, pose, and done. They're beautiful on flag. The guard's great as a whole, but snaps to the flag line. Snaps to the flag line. Good job. I hope you all can get to Dayton one year. I know you all did Grand Nets this year, so you're not going this year. Hopefully next year. I want to see you all at Dayton. Second place, we had Little Elm High School with their show Here Now, and this was our Scholastic Open winner last year, so they were promoted to World. Their floor design is boxes everywhere, and they have actual box props on the floor too. There's about 20 of them or so. The guard is in all white, and they're using the song The End by Patty Griffin. And they start with all body and the side two, and then a soloist comes forward, and then a saber comes flying to her on the floor. Unfortunately, got a little overthrown in finals. It happens, right? It happens. But the performer who's supposed to catch it recovered wonderfully. Like, they're clearly professional, like trained so well, recovered very well. So that'll be a very cool moment when successful. But just something to keep an eye out for is that huge exchange that comes. Then we have more sabers join, and they're spinning a green flag that has like the same kind of box floor print on it, but it's all done in greens. And they are constantly up and down on these boxes. And the boxes are all different heights. They're not even like level. So some of these girls are hopping up like a good 2.5 feet, to spin, and they're getting back down. So definitely recognizing that. Props to you on that one. They have a double saber moment into saber solos, and then guns enter with turnaround tosses matching the lyrics, where the lyrics say turn around and the guns turn around. Again, snaps. We love that. We love those little nuggets. We continue on until we hit a popcorn feature, and the guns are just going ham at this point. Like, they're just like, you know what? We're just going to show off. This guard has put in a lot of work, and, they were surprised for me last year. I'm like, we're Little Elm, where'd they come from? And then they just blew Scholastic Open out of the water. And here they are doing a great job in World. The director and staff are doing wonders with these kids. These kids are doing wonders with themselves because they're the ones putting in the work and practicing, getting so strong. And they've handled this transition to World beautifully. They're well trained. They look like professionals out there. I know I said that. I'm going to say it again because they do. We finished with this popcorn feature, and then we moved to a gun ripple to a pink flag feature with the same kind of box design of the green flags. And then the show transitions out and we end. And yeah, I like it. I really like this one. And I think you did a great job transitioning to World. I'm hoping you can make finals. We'll see. Like we talked about with Open, it's going to be tricky to make Scholastic World Finals. There's 11 groups that don't make it, and that bottom third, we're talking like 10th to like 17th, 18th place, are going to be crazy tight, right? Just like an independent world, guards just clawing for those final 5 spots. So keep up the work, Little Elm. I see you over there. I see you. Let's move on to first place with the Woodlands High School and their show Take Me Up. Woodlands is our defending WGI champion from Scholastic World, and they had a big graduating class last year, but you wouldn't know it by looking at them this year. I mean, this is a guard that has a system in place. I believe when I was talking to Olivia Thomas, I did an interview with her who marched the Woodlands. I believe they have 4 programs. So they have a big feeder system. They have tons and tons of kids and talent coming through the system. So they graduated out, like, I want to say like 16 or 18 kids last year. And you wouldn't know it. You couldn't tell in fall either because they were bananas in fall. So I was like, I know they're going to be crazy in indoor. And here we are. The floor is simple brown and white marbled, and they have small box props, kind of like milk crate size or so. And then they have also just boards, like almost like you would see like in a shelf, but they're a little bigger. And then in the back side 2 corner, they have a small little scaffolding set. I couldn't really tell what it was, but it just looks like just a little boards, and it's just raised about 3 feet off the floor. So that's why I'm calling it scaffolding. Maybe that's going to be enhanced more throughout the season, but looking through the flow camera, I'm like, okay, so like a little stage back there. Their song is Birdland by Patti Smith, and they start with Saber right out of the gate. They're all on their backs, their feet in the air, and they're kind of kicking like a bicycle kind of move, and then performers start standing up with Saber, and then they just start doing what the Woodlands does. Just putting on a clinic, doing all these things, and you're just like, how are these high schoolers doing all of these crazy things? I mean, it's just yeah, they're just like, watch what we can do. And it's like the whole show. They just, yeah, so many amazing tosses, such incredible technique, and the show's pretty clean. Like pretty clean already. They have a bluish green kind of flag that comes out and spins with the gun, and they just make it look so easy. The guns just go crazy. And then at one point, practically the entire color guard is on gun, which I'm here for. They have like maybe all but 5 performers on gun. And they're running all over the floor. They're on side 1 doing a feature. Then they run around and go to the back center and they do a little feature. Then they run down to the side 2 corner and do another feature. And just, like I said, just putting on a damn clinic of here's how you spin a rifle. Then we get these brown and yellow flags that enter, and the guns are still going wild. And then they do a flag feature, and the flag feature is amazing already. It's the first weekend of March, and it's all amazing already. And then they all end up at that back scaffolding to end the show. Yeah, they look amazing. They look great. This is going to be an exciting year to see because you've got Arcadia that's killing it, Avon, Carmel. You've got Tarpon and Flanagan coming back this year. These Scholastic World guards fighting for a medal. It's gonna be a bloodbath. And I can't wait. It's gonna be so exciting. Oh God, Woodlands, you guys are so good. God, can you teach me to spin gun like that? But nicely done, Woodlands. Y'all are amazing. Let's move on to Independent World. We're gonna head to Charlotte, and our 3rd place color guard was Etude, and their show The Latest Story. Shout out to Chris. Hey boo. So going off of prelims because finals was like, nah, we're done. You don't need to watch this Independent World stuff. Even it was basically giving out the start of Open, but I had Etude on my TV, and even my husband was like, what's going on? And I'm like, the feed's a disaster. That's what's going on. So we're going to go off of Etude's prelims run. They have a red floor that's got a print of like draped curtains, and everything's like the whole show is kind of taken like as of a stage, and the red curtains on a stage. So they have 3 large 20 feet tall curtain props, the small stage in front of them. One's in the front side 1 corner, one's like back center-ish. And then they have one back side 2 corner that's kind of faced on a 45. And then in the front side 2, facing into the floor, they have theater seats. So, like, you're watching the show or watching the performers. The music is Stars by Nina Simone, and the music is very, very subdued, very minimal, almost kind of like a sing talking for the first like half. The guard is dressed in old style tuxedos with tails and top hats. And they start with body and they have a beautiful ensemble Conde Coupe C jump. Like everybody does it except for one person in the middle of the floor. And then a saber soloist comes out, and then rifles in groups of 3 are introduced in front of each stage. The rifles take the floor, and then the sabers start to enter. And then we have red flags enter in front of the stage. So the red flags open up on the stage. And my one little thing about this show is the flag line isn't as featured as they were last year. Everybody remembers Etude's flag line last year. Bananas, killer, amazing. They were like, here, look at our flag line. They don't do that this year, which is a shame because that flag line last year was amazing. They do get some moments this time, but not like last year. Like last year, I think was an anomaly, and I was kind of hoping that we would get that again this year. But the spinners are still amazing. They just don't get that feature that they did last year. We continue working with the 3 pieces of equipment with feature tosses and such, and body is going as well. You know, it's a world. There's just a lot going on the floor, but it's not overwhelming. They have a blue flag get chucked out to a performer and she performs with it. And then another performer takes that flag and she gets picked up and she's on somebody's shoulder on her stomach, you know, kind of like airplaning, like I'm flying. And then the flag gets tossed to her while she's in the lift. Beautifully done. And then yellow flags start to begin while the weapons continue to spin. And then about 2/3 of the way through the show, this is where the music starts to swell and build, and we get some more, and Nina's really starting to really sing, and the piano's getting into it, and we get more yellow flags, and then we have a flag explosion on a rifle toss, right? We have a rifle catch, and boom, yellow explodes. It's not a full feature, but we do get a lot of flags spinning, and there's still some guns going. And it keeps moving and moving until it ends with a rifle soloist that does like a hat lift, like takes their hat off and then catches in a backhand. It used to be like a triple turn, but they moved the triple turn to another spot and then move this up. So they might be playing with tricks here because this has changed. And then they all just kind of work to the edge. Like some of them go behind the stage, some of them end up in the theater seats, and then it ends with a single performer on the floor. It's beautiful, it's soft, it's understated. Like it's not super flashy, which is kind of funny considering they're in tuxedos and they're doing these big curtains and theater, you know, like a theater setting, and you're like, it's not flashy, but it's just very well done. So nicely done, Etude. But maybe if you want to tweak something, give me some more flagline love, please. Second place was Fusion, and we covered them in the Philly regional, so we're gonna move on. But I will say, love them. This was a much better camera angle for them at this show. Not that the feed was better, but just the angle itself was much better. And I just love the one thing I do want to say about this show is I love that it feels like it's just like a good old fashioned color guard show, and I love it. They use classic color guard music, and they're just doing what they do best. They're moving and they're spinning and they're clean. They're not trying to overdo, not trying to over design. It's just simple in a world class way, and I love it. So yeah, and they were right behind Paramount. Let's move on to first place, which was Paramount and their show Follow Me or How to Start a Movement. And they have no tarp. They have rectangle props, you know, kind of like the bench style props that are covered in looks like white graffiti or something similar, but they're black and then they're covered in like white graffiti. And the costuming, they're in black. I call them hammer pants. I do not know the actual name, but they're really, really baggy pants that kind of cinch at the ankle. And then they have a tight one sleeve shirt that's either in blue, yellow, red, or green. And the music is original music. It was something that the director Rick Subel created, and it has like a hip hop, jazzy R&B kind of vibe. It's very Beyonce tees, right? This is like a song you could hear Beyonce singing, especially once it really starts getting going. You're like, oh yeah, I could. This sounds kind of like a Beyonce song. So the show starts and they push a rectangle prop across the front of the floor that unrolls like a hyper colored tarp in graffiti. So this is where they get their floor pieces from. They're hidden in these bench props and they just roll them out, kind of like a rolling pin. They just push it across the floor and it just leaves this strip of tarp behind. They have guns that come out with it. And then we have rifles, 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 tossing galore, showing off the precision that Paramount has. They're very tossy in this section, just tosses, 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 doing what Paramount does, right? They're just showing off at this point. After this little section, two dancers come out and they've taken off a shoe, and the shoe is used like kind of a symbol throughout the show. My brain does not get it. I'm sure other people are like, oh, it makes total sense to me. But for me, I'm like, huh? Like it's their running through line because later in the show they'll be holding up a shoe. Maybe it's in the lyrics and I just didn't hear it, but they make a point to show you this. And as more people come out, the dancers are like holding shoes and they take their shoes off and those kinds of things. Another tarp gets rolled out from backside one corner to the front 50, like towards the front on the 50, and rifles and flags enter here. And the flags have a very cool stripe pattern on them. And there's some written words that I saw on Instagram. It might be how to start a movement or something like that, but I feel like that's what it says on the flags. I don't remember correctly, but the flag is designed well. Those stripes are right in the rotation lines of the flag, and because it's Paramount and they can spin a flag and they're clean, you get that nice like, oh yes, like when they spin together. Love it. Sabres enter as another tarp strip is pulled from the side tube back corner. That doesn't make it all the way to the 50. It kind of cuts it a little shorter by design, not like they messed it up. And then they have all three pieces are working on the floor. They have a very nice flag feature for the flag line, and I love the way these flags spin. They continue with all three pieces doing the usual big toss moments that they're so good at, eventually moving down to just four guns and then body. And they have a couple fake out endings. Like it's like you think the show's going to end, and then it doesn't. And it's kind of cool. Thankfully, the announcer didn't mess anything up because I feel like one of the shows I was watching, the announcer was like, oh, wait, they're not done. Then a fourth strip of this graffiti floor gets pulled out on backside too. It's just kind of off by itself and it's isolated there. And then they all move that way for another fake out ending. And then it's just like the breakdown section. They all just start busting a move. Like there's a beat drop and they're getting into it. And they all start flooding the floor, just kind of doing tricky leaps and jumps and just, like you would think like with the weapons where the weapons just kind of go ham and just kind of show off. They're just doing this with body. They just kind of come out of this section bit by bit and just throwing all these body things. They flood the floor and then they dance to end the show. And I love, love, love the vibe. They're looking good for March 1st. My prediction was that they were going to run away with Independent World this year, just given the past few years. And somebody asked me on my AMA, like, who do I think is going to win Independent World? And I said Paramount, and it won't be close. I still think Paramount's going to win at this point. I haven't seen everybody, but as of this point, but I'm going to retract the part of it. It won't be close because Fusion was right behind them. Going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. We have the Buford Regional, which is the last weekend. It's the Georgia Regional on March 21st, 22nd. It's the same weekend as Bethlehem. And there's another California Regional, I believe. It's a huge, huge regional weekend. But there's a bunch of independent world guards down at that regional. Paramount, Blessed Sac, Etude, and more. They're all there. So that's going to be a good one to watch because that's going to be the last regional weekend. So we'll see how everything kind of stacks up there. Let's move over to Austin for our two independent world guards there. In second place, we had Invictus with their show Unafraid. And they have a bright pink with hints of purple floor, and the guard is in all black. And guns just right as music started, boom, we had guns, and the rest are on body. We have a double turn toss and catch, and then we add more guns. Then like a sea foamy kind of color flag comes out and joins the party on the floor. And everyone is on rifle or flag, and then the soundtrack gets super intense. And then we have some forward roll gun tosses, and then a pink flag gets thrown in, and then the pink matches the color of the floor. Like it's almost like the exact same shade, which is impressive. I guess if you got them printed at the same place, they could do the same die. So that makes sense. And then they have this flag ensemble with these pink flags that just constantly speeds up with the music. Like the music continues to speed up, and then the flag feature speeds up, and then eventually we hit a breaking point where they can't spin that fast anymore, and we go back to a traditional ensemble. But they condense in and they expand out, and then they finish with a high 45 toss, and then we move to body, and then they start grabbing guns, and they've kind of developed this like trick that they use on their own, which I love. And they'll chuck the exchange guns, they throw them into the floor, like 2/3 of the way into the floor. Like this isn't like a little dinky exchange. Like they are throwing these things. And then they pick up these yellow flags from the top end cap and they do like this whip toss with them and chuck those 2/3 of the way into the floor to the other performers. And then those people pick up saber. So we have all three pieces now. And we finish with some tosses before we come to the horizontal 50. They lay down the equipment, and then a performer climbs up on the person on center and just stands perfectly upright right on their shoulders. And that's how the show ends. It's a nice effort. I really like the exchange moments from them. Very, very cool. And let's move on to our first place color guard, which was Origins. And their show, I believe it's called The Tower. I believe it's what it's called. And shout out to Caleb. Hey, boo. friend of the pod. And then we had a little hiccup in finals, which is already making the rounds on Instagram and TikTok that we've seen, where during the pre-show, the lights in the gym went out. It wasn't a power loss because everything else kept working. I don't know if somebody bumped into a light switch and they went off, but for a brief second, for a very, very brief second, I thought it was part of the performance because of the timing of when it happened, and it kind of happened with a boom in their pre-show music. But I'm like, wait, you can't do that. So this clearly isn't part of their show. But for like that nanosecond, I was like, wait, did the rules change? Can we do this now? So they ended up restarting. Everything went off without a hitch. The performers were not rattled, you could tell, because they put on a great performance. No issues after that. They just redid the pre-show, and their floor is like black and red with like an abstract eye design on it. And then in the center, they have a metal like scaffolding tower kind of thing with TVs on it, and it's showing pictures and animations of eyes. They also have some red metal folding chairs on the floor. And the guard is in like a mix match of grays and blacks. And they start the show with a really cool lift where somebody's laying back on somebody's feet, and they're holding them up with their feet, but then the person who's lifted their feet are on a person in front of them, and then they do those cool little jump off in a ripple and with rifle tosses. They have this rope and everything, and people are tangled in and out of them, and they're, reeling people in and wrapping people up, doing all this like crazy intricate stuff while rifle tosses happen, and then it just gets capped with a rifle all the way around rifle tosses, and smack, we get that resolution. It's a very cool start to the show. The music has like an electronica vibe to it, and then they continue to use the chairs, and we move away from the center, and then two flags burst out of the tower, and sabers start joining the party, and then the soundtrack takes a downturn, and we have a saber and flag moment. The flags are orange and white with some sort of design on it. I could not figure it out. We continue to have more great moments and tosses. Just, think what we expect from these top tier world guards. That's what we're getting, right? We get these moments where we toss and the flags are doing something, and then we catch and we're just interacting in these little pairs and all those kinds of things. After the saber section, we re-intensify, and a rifle goes flying across the floor to a lifted performer for an exchange. And then we have a new flag here, and it's hard to see the design, but it's mostly red with some white on it. We also have performers holding onto the ropes that are connected to the tower and moving around the floor, and more tosses and sabers and guns, and just going crazy. And then people come to the front of the floor, and then I remember watching, and I'm like, oh, and then all of a sudden somebody just takes their pants off. And I'm like, what? What just happened? So they start stripping. It's just the way the performer took the pants off just caught me really off guard. And I'm like, what just happened? But underneath their gray and black uniforms, they have green, teal unitards that are in a short style. It comes up and it's like a tank style or sleeveless. And then there's like a mesh material connected for a full sleeve. And so everybody strips down, and they pull out iridescent flags in these various shades of green to match. So we've got this going on, and then we get a flag feature here, and we're hearing sounds of waves crashing and seagulls. So we're definitely getting like an ocean vibe from the uniforms, the colors of the flags, and all that. I don't know the story. I don't know what they're trying to do with the story, but it's very pretty. It's very well done. They do a full flag feature here. Then they finish by putting their flags down in the shape of an eye with the poles, and then they just kind of start all walking away. And then the show ends. So, not sure I get 100%, but I like it. And it's really well done. They're incredibly strong. I really like the beginning section. I will say I was really caught off guard when people started just taking off their pants at the front of the floor. But then when everybody started, I'm like, okay. So I want to see how this progresses and see this again. So great job, Origins. I really like this one. And that is a wrap on the Austin and Charlotte regionals. Once again, I'm sorry I could not cover everybody. I'm going to try to keep this one under an hour and a half. I think with editing, I can do it. So this coming weekend is the Manhattan Beach Regional, and I'll be covering that as well. It's a great lineup. It's our California one. It's the only televised regional, so there's only one to worry about. So we're going to see all the California guards that we want to see: Arcadia, Fantasia, El Dorado, Chino Hills, Vox Artium, Icon, Palm Desert Charter Middle School, Palm Desert High School, all of those guards. We're going to see them all this weekend. Very exciting. And then the last recap weekend will be the weekend of the 14th, where we're going to do the Stewart Regional in Florida. We have the Avon Regional happening, but pretty much all the guards from Indy went to Avon. I might cover like the 2 or 3 guards that are going, like Norwin and Kiski will be at the Avon Regional. So I might just pick and choose. We're going to cover these 2 guards because we haven't seen them. And then, but mostly that's going to be Stewart, so we can see all the Florida guards like Flanagan and Tarpon Springs and Tampa Independent and FIU and Orlando Visual, and USF, all of them are going to be at that Stewart Regional. So we'll cover them mostly. I will be in Bethlehem the weekend of the 21st, which is the final regional weekend. And pretty much everyone will have flowed by then. So I think the only big name we won't have seen will be Blessed Sack, but they'll be at Buford. So we'll see them. It's just I won't be able to cover them. So let me know if you'll be in Bethlehem too. So come and say hi. I'd love to meet you. Good luck to everybody competing this weekend. Enjoy the shows if you're just watching, and hopefully the flow stream is good for Manhattan Beach. It better be because it's the only one we have this weekend. So until next time, stay safe, stay fabulous, and remember at the end of the day, it's just flags in a gym.